Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the Hana for the introduction and to the ladies and gentlemen and to the esteemed speaker. Actually, I feel very cold. I'm sure the auditor is very cold, but I hope the question and answer session will get us all out. Without wasting any more time, because we have slightly around 30 to 40 minutes of question and answer session, we would like to open the question for any of the audience to ask. I'm sure some of you can already message or answer or WhatsApp the numbers stated above. Anybody who would like to ask the question first? Okay, the brother from behind. Please introduce us your name.
Hi, my name is Ansar. If it's okay, I'll ask two questions, right? Is it okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
For first person to ask you, you give that little bit.
Yeah. Alright, I've got two questions for now. During the presentations, I hear that a lot is being discussed on issues of violent extremism and extreme Salafiism, which I think rightly so, because it's one of the main issues that we are facing with. However, let us also look at extremism from the other side of the coin, in the sense that Islam is also, and Muslims are also being challenged from an intellectual sense of the ideas of secular humanism and atheism and things like that. So my question is, and it is a very real issue in all Muslims in the contemporary world, especially if you go to secular universities. So then my question is, do we have the capacity to deal with it, and what are we doing to deal with it, right? And the second issue brings in both speakers' context, both speakers' presentations. Both speakers both mentioned on the importance of context and traditionally established practices in the formulation of fiqh. But I'm also wondering, where is the place of context and traditionally established practices in the tools that we use to establish it? Is it overarching? Can it even be overarching when compared to textual and scriptural sources? And it is context. Is Islam then tied to context? If the second speaker brought up that we are not talking about the context of the Prophet, then I want to put forth is that if Islam is tied to context, then can we say that Islam out of this context is therefore irrelevant? And if that is the case, is Islam then true or complete? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hamza, for the opening question. I would like to get Dr. Mohamed to start first. The first question probably on secular humanism and the other form of extremism.
Thank you for your questions. I've actually told Dr. Mohamed he should fill most of the questions, because the more I speak, the more I feel unwell, so it's not helping me this time around. But I think that's a very important question. I totally agree with you, the importance for us to really appreciate the extent of our challenge. We have chosen to focus on one aspect. It does not mean that there are other areas that are not or any less challenging than the ones that we've mentioned. I think the problem for us is, and I've mentioned this actually, I alluded to this in my introduction, it's about the process of learning, because I think there is a real crisis of Islamic learning or in terms of acquiring knowledge in the Muslim world in general. What do I mean by this? I think we are quite parochial in the sense we are quite narrow-minded. We look at only certain issues. There are, of course, we are always distracted by existential things. Terrorism is one existential threat because it involves people's lives, because innocent people are being killed. It therefore becomes an extremely important thing that everybody has to look at. And for these, our resources are drawn to really look at this and how do we address this, how do we protect our younger generation from getting involved. This does not mean and does not make any of our other challenges less important. We have issues of education, I just want to focus on Islamic evolution itself, right? And you are right to point out the challenge of secular humanism, atheism, if you like. These issues are not even well understood within Muslim communities. Even lifestyles, not well understood. And our biggest problem is our attitude. Because we don't understand, we begin to say, we use whatever is at our disposal to either deny the problem or to run away from it, thinking that we have solved it, or thinking that that is the solution. So some things that you hear will be, people say, oh, this is all, benda-benda baru yang menyesatkan. Well, what is it? What is it about? Have you ever sat down with an atheist or a humanist and have a dialogue and conversation? Have you ever even listened to what his arguments or her arguments are? Not just even, secular humanism is one example, but this whole idea of, other religions. Have we sat down with a Christian and looked at all the arguments and questions that we have? I spent a good number of years sitting with some Christian colleagues who deeply believe that we Muslims are misguided, but they're very nice people. They're not out there to do whatever to you, but they're very nice people. They think we are misguided and they want to help us. Salvation. They know the boundaries. Likewise, we say in all our understanding of the Quran, it says, Kitab Muharraf, Yuharrifuna al-Kalima, all the Christians that So what happens is, when you sit down and you have that conversation, then they ask you, well, your Quran says that our books have been distorted, right? The Bible has been distorted. Can you show us where the distortion took place? I'll give you a Bible now. You open up the Bible and tell me where the distortion took place. Of course, I'm dumbfounded because I'm not trained. And I just realized that I'm not even prepared for this. So the first thing is, what people normally say is globalize everything. And this is again, I saw a question on WhatsApp. Thank you very much from Brother Yunus, isn't it? They're asking about Islam and what do I mean by Islam is not one, or just not one brand of Islam. It's about, in the very first instance, acknowledging the existence or presence of the challenge. That's the first most important thing. I think it's just like everything else in life, okay? We don't have to even know about religion, Islam, everything else in life. You have a problematic family member. You have somebody who, let's say an addicted gambler or a smoker or whatever, right? You want to help the person because you have seen the implications of this, the effect this has on the family members and the children. You can never help the person unless the person first and foremost recognizes and acknowledges, well, you know what, I know I have a problem, I need to be helped. That's the very first thing, acknowledge. Before that, if you don't have, if you're not clear at that level, you can never go to the next level of, okay, let's look at the solutions. Now, in the Muslim world, same thing. I don't think we have understood the problem enough to acknowledge that this is a real problem. So what you will see is people keep doing the same things all the time, thinking that will solve the problem. So, example is if secular humanism is a threat, atheism is a threat, you don't acknowledge that, then you keep saying the same things. You think that, well, the more you talk about, teach Islam the normal way, the more you talk about, kita perlu mesti tanamkan akidah dalam anak-anak kita perlu ajar orang tauhid. That is not going to solve the threat of secular humanism or atheism. Because they have very specific arguments against theism. They have very specific arguments against the existence of God. They go into chance theory, probability theory, chaos theory, they go into all sorts of things. Now sit down with them or at least read their books. This whole, and this whole thing about evolution, right? What do Muslims say when who do you remember when you talk about Darwinism and evolution theory? You remember, what's the name? The Turkish writer.
Harun Yahya.
Pardon?
Harun Yahya.
Harun Yahya, that's his, that's not his real name, Harun Yahya. And okay, we think that Harun Yahya has solved the problem and has provided a response to Darwinism. So, when you ask a Muslim about evolution, they say, okay, Harun Yahya has handled this, right? But how many of us even understand what evolution theory is? There's a scholar in the UK, he is an astrophysicist. but also a religious scholar. His name is Dr. Usama Hassan, who was an imam of a London mosque for a long time. His father was also an imam. He believes in evolution as a theory, but he believes it is fully compatible with the Quran. Because he reads it in a different way. He believes that things evolve, but ultimately the creator is God. So he does not believe that it happened by chance. And that is essentially, that is also not the idea of evolution if you look into the specifics of the arguments. He said in a mosque, and you know what the audience is, it's on YouTube if you look for it, you'll find it. So people spread rumors that Dr. Usama Hassan, in fact, he's known as Sheikh Usama Hassan, as a teacher of astrophysics at Royal Holloway University. They said Dr. Usama Hassan is teaching us evolution theory and Darwinism is Muslim, right? So one day he had the kind of like set in front of the Jama'ah in the mosque. You know what was the question? The question was, the Jama'ah forced him to declare that he believes that humans originated from monkeys. That's all they want to hear. Tell us, do you believe that humans are evolved from monkeys? Okay. I'm not going to tell you the answer, what he said. Here, you can look on YouTube, but he's got a more extensive argument and he explained it. But that is the kind of mentality that we have. Right? We hear things and we think that, well, it must be right, or okay, this is the understanding. We don't even begin to understand the concept. And I think that's a major problem that we have. That's what I keep saying about fusion of learning. You know, all our scholars, unfortunately, the modern world has made us quite, or not just quite, in Singapore has made us extremely busy people. You cannot sit down with a book comfortably for a few hours and try to understand. You only have 5-10 minutes. That's why smartphones are extremely popular. Right? Quick one, WhatsApp, tell me what's going on. You know? Everything is quick. But that will not help us understand issues, concepts, and even think about solutions. That won't do it. Our scholars, Imam, they were provided sustenance by some of the rulers, but they spent days and hours and years, in fact. That's why Imam Shafi said, I mentioned that Tulu Zaman, you need a long time. So, the first thing is, yes, it is a major challenge. I wouldn't understate the challenge, right? But there's much more to be done to understand it. And the worst thing is this, because we do not understand, there's a lot of ignorance about it, we resort to fear. That means you get scared of it. Either you get scared of it personally, or some people scare you about it. You don't come near this so-and-so, this is an ultra-liberal guy who's going to... Because either you don't understand what he stands for, you're not able to engage with him on these issues, you can't even discuss with him. The easiest way is to scare people away. Right? A lot of people are scared even to look at churches. I cannot go in because if I'm going, I don't know what they're going to do inside. Go in there. Have a look. What are they doing? They won't disturb you. Right? And all you need to do is to ask. Right? All you need to do is to ask, and all you need to do is to... And the thing is, all this will develop confidence in you. That's extremely important. The more we know, the more confident we will be. Because A, we understand what this thing is about, and B, we understand the extent of the challenge, and C, we feel that we can talk to people and find out more. And when you disagree, you can tell them, I disagree on this issue with you. Sit with a Christian, sit with an atheist, sit with a secular humanist, talk about issues. And you realize that, come on, at the end of the day, we are human beings. We want to make sure that we can live on this world well alongside each other. We have our differences. My religion tells you this very clearly. Your idea tells you this, right? But you know where to draw the line. You can have a conversation and a dialogue. Not everybody is equipped for that, of course. And of course we are worried and concerned what will happen to our children, what will happen to the next generation. But this is all driven by fear, which we have not really looked at what kind of solutions we have. And the solution really is to encourage our young to enroll themselves in programs and classes, guide them in their reading, let them to meet people that we can have conversations about. And of course, I don't think the fear is unfounded, the fact that people can get access to these ideas almost instantaneously in your bedroom. You don't know what's going on in there. Essentially, it's about the same thing, about access to information. But we must be prepared for this kind of environment in which you need to be ready to engage people on ideas. You can no longer run away from them. There's nowhere to run away from, right? So the problem is, in fact, it's even a problem with our, religious scholars and all that we feel inadequate, we feel that we're not prepared, we feel we're not ready, and therefore we don't want to confront the challenge, and we scare people. I've seen this a lot. And at one point in Malaysia in particular, and I have to mention this as an example, right? A lot of the Malaysian scholars that I've seen online as well as in their lectures used to, the approach was to condemn every single Orientalist that is called an Orientalist. You know that in the 18th, 19th century, there were a lot of scholars from the West who went to Middle East, in particular in Muslim countries, in fact even in Indonesia, studied about Islam in those environments. They produced a lot of work. Yes, some of them essentialized Islam, start talking about Islam in a certain way. But eventually you come across this narrative, and everybody pushed it to Edward Said. Edward Said's book on Orientalism, Edward Said, Edward Said, because of his deep knowledge and learning, so all the Orientalists are bad, all their works are rubbish, they are out to destroy Islam. Now, what was the basis for this thing? It's not based on understanding and knowledge, it's based on assumptions, hearsay, and condemnation. So if we move like that, I think we will have a lot of problems. Yeah, just one quick word on context. I agree with you. Context is not, what's the word? Context is not paramount. Context is not the basis, right? Context is about understanding what is truly meant. Even this is an attempt for us to understand. When the Prophet ﷺ said a certain thing to a certain Sahaba and it becomes a hadith, what did he mean by it? If you do not understand the environment, the scenario, you can never truly appreciate. And this has happened even during the Prophet's time. He gave some guidance and teaching, some of the companions took it out of context and they applied it. Like this case of somebody who was injured in battlefield, and he had to do his ghusl because he had a hadath besar. And they said that, well, we know from you that hadath besar means kena mandi lah. It was a cold winter night. And he took a shower and he died because the wounds were very bad. In contact with cold water, the wound became worse and he died from it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna shifa al-ayni as-su'al. If you don't really understand what I meant, you must ask. Because in that particular context, right, where he is wounded in battlefield and water is extremely cold, tayammum was enough for him. That is the whole thing about context. So context is not an unfettered tool, but it's part of a whole methodology to understand the meaning of the text and to apply it so that eventually what's right at the top is the maqasid that Allah SWT wants the religion to achieve. You achieve that. You achieve that. And context does not change everything. That's very important, right? There was a very funny thing recently, I don't know whether you came aware of on Facebook. Somebody said, if Islam is based on context, therefore two things should not have happened in Islam, right? This is, again, pardon me for saying this is bad-mouthing context. So what they do is they say, if these people say context is important, and so therefore based on context, Islam should not have done two things. One, Islam should not have instituted the requirement for wudu because 7th century Arabia did not have a lot of water. Correct? So in the context of a desert, why is there a requirement to use water to clean yourself every time you need to pray? There's not enough water, so the context is it's a desert environment. Kenapa ada wudu pula? That's what we say. So therefore, context should not be. The word I wanted to say is context is not sacred. Sorry. The second is, if Islam is based on context, therefore, fasting in Ramadan should not be made obligatory because, again, desert environment, very hot, very long days. Why do you punish people to fast? So Islam is not based on context. That's a counter argument. Now again, these are, people tend to, in the interest of trying to rebut certain methodology or principles, they use these examples. I argue on the contrary, it's precisely because of context these two things will be obligatory. Because it's a desert environment, you went to Salah, right? You need to clean yourself from dust. The dust that blows into the deserts and the sanitary requirements, that's why there is need for cleansing. And second is fasting. If fasting is instituted in a place which is very short days and very cold, what's the point of fasting? Fasting is to test you, to push you to the limit, to test your forbearance, right? So if it's so easy to fast, why? So again, we have to be careful of these things. People tend to twist these arguments. So most important thing is context is not sacred. What is sacred is what Allah has revealed and what the Prophet has given us as examples. Context helps us understand what is meant by it, what it seeks to achieve, and then when you want to do it now, make sure you achieve the objectives. If you don't take into account the context, right, then you can never achieve the objectives because then you misimplement certain things. I mean, there are a lot of examples to this, but I don't think we have time now to give an opportunity to Mr. Mohamed.
Thank you, Dr. Nazir. I hope the answers already clarified the question about the other form of extremism, which is secular humanism, and how we should approach them as Muslims. And also, it's about the understanding of context, the importance of context, understanding Islamic faith. We move on to Dr. Mohamed. We have a set of questions because there are a few kind of similar questions, so I try to summarize. One is on what is the solution you're offering to our Singaporean Muslims regarding this issue of living as minorities and having this idea of having loyalty to the non-Muslim state. And also, second question is on the sending army to Iraq. I spoke to Dr. Mohamed just now whether is this the question that Dr. Mohamed should be the one answering, because the question is quite a bit. The exact question on this particular aspect is that we are facing shortage of medical attention in Singapore. Why do we need to send a medical team to assist the US war in Iraq? So I want Dr. Mohamed to respond.
Thank you, Sir Ridwan. The first question about how can we move forward in terms of our engagement with people of religious other in Singapore. This is something that is very explicitly explained clearly, emphasized in the Quran about human relationship, right? For example, because I understand that there's a question about Merry Christmas, right? Yeah, about Merry Christmas. You know, about the issue of an example, Merry Christmas, is something that has been debated, and we see differing views about this matter by the ulama. Okay? And the question about can or cannot, can we or can we not, is the question of fiqh. Right? And Islam is not only about fiqh. If you look at hadith that has been shared by Dr. Nazirudin, there is three key components: Iman, Islam, Ihsan. Iman is the belief, Islam is the practice, and Ihsan is about values. Okay? Right? So, while there are rulings on Islam on certain issues, but there is something deeper or more important than the hukum itself. The objective, the reason, the values. Right? The maqasid sharia. So, when we talk about hukum here, there are two types in general. There are hukum that is definitive, thawabit, or qat'i. There is hukum that is non-definitive, or mutaghayyirat, or zanni. I mean, nobody can argue the importance or the hukum of performing 5 times of salat every day, because this is clearly mentioned in the Quran. Nobody can argue whether we can not fast in the month of Ramadan, and that is hukum thawabit, qat'i, definitely. But issues like this, for example, saying Merry Christmas, these are issues that has been considered by the ulama as a non-definitive ruling. So you can see, while you see ulama, some ulama mention about you cannot say Merry Christmas, but you must also understand there are ulama who say you can do that. Right? Unlike Qat'i, you don't see ulama say that Ramadan is not compulsory. Fasting is not compulsory in the month of Ramadan. But you can see differing views on issues of mutaghayyirat, or non-definitive issues. The ruling is non-definitive. Okay? So, coming back to the question, Quran emphasizes a lot about human relationship, human dignity. So one of the ayats that has been mentioned earlier is about, for example, in Surah Mumtahana, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. People who are not fighting us, our obligation is to do just, be kind to them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, raised the position of all human beings, regardless of race, religion, faith, colors, language, many ayats. One of the ayats is وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. The other ayat is, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates everybody, people from different tribes, nations, for us to know each other. Right? So this sense of respect, right, and positive human relationship can be manifested in different forms. One of the forms is by respecting their festival, by saying Merry Christmas. Because when we say Merry Christmas to them, we are not proclaiming the Trinity of Christ. We're not doing that. So it's about human relationship. And if you want to talk, or if you want to discuss about faith issues, it will never end. It will never end. Because there are different views, opinions. Alright, I stop here. The second question is about what? Army.
Sending a medical team to Iraq.
Okay.
So what's the opposition if Muslims have to...
It's very simple. I cannot answer because I'm not from the government. I'm not from the Singapore Armed Forces. I cannot see. The decision made, I cannot comment by the decision made by the Singapore government if the government decides to send troops to Iraq, fight, or even it has to be in a coalition with the US to fight. But what I can say is that, the Singapore government, more than 50 years, they understood very well the sensitivities of a multiracial society. They know it very well about the problems with the Muslims, the Christians, Buddhists, Jews. They know. Right? So I believe, although I do not hear from the government, I believe that they will try. Try. And I've heard also that the government will try their best not to put Singaporeans in the forefront of fighting ISIS. Because of these sensitivities, they will try their best. The Singapore government is unlike the US government. But as one of you have mentioned, in the scenario where Singapore has to fight Malaysia, that means we are fighting for national security, for the defense of the country. We must have this sense of loyalty, belief in our nation. And we know Singapore, the government, we know the political leaders here, they have been trying their best to look into this issue of sensitivities of people from these different race and religion. Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohamed. I hope that clarified again. We move on to another set of questions about the understanding of Sharia in contemporary times. We have a few questions on that. One of the questions is on the like the implementation of Sharia, for example, has certain impediment towards, being perceived as having some impediment towards certain gender, for example, women probably are being treated unfairly, being seen, being unfairly treated. So to what extent the boundary of Sharia can be relooked at when we're trying to reform the law? Another question is about living in this contemporary world. Is there any time where the Sharia will be implemented, or the idea of Sharia law even relevant in this modern world? And what differentiates between the contemporary Muslim and the Muslim of the past? I pass that to Dr. Nazir.
Thank you very much. It's a very good question. I raised this in my presentation earlier about the Sharia, because it all depends on what you mean by the Sharia, right? And I've said that there was a research that was done, Pew Research, a couple of years ago. They interviewed and asked a lot of Muslims around the world. Singapore was not one of them, but a lot of Muslims, particularly in Muslim majority countries, as well as Central Europe, Middle East, Asia, and the Americas as well, asking them what they understand by the Sharia and whether they want to be ruled by the Sharia. Those interested, you can Google this. Google the Pew Research will find a whole executive summary of all. But in sum, the summary is that there are many different understandings of what the Sharia means to different people. Okay? I mentioned this just to say that, again, at the end of the day, what we understand by the Sharia is important to us. When we ask the question, are there impediments to the Sharia? Can we implement the Sharia in Singapore? So on and so forth. Recently, we had a course with some students, mostly in their final years, and more than half the class have graduated as well from Islamic universities. And I asked them this question: do you think there is Sharia in Singapore? And everybody said yes. So I said, where? So, interestingly, they looked at Sharia not in the sense of the laws itself, but Sharia is God's sacred law insofar as the values that are required to be upheld in the society. So they looked at, for example, is there justice, is there equality, is there freedom to practice your faith. They said that in Singapore, wherever you go, you can find a place to pray. In a mosque, right? In a small island, you've got a mosque. To have the Islamic education, everybody has access to it. Nobody stopping you from learning Islam, practice Islam, so on and so forth. Is it a perfect place and perfect system? Of course not. It depends on what you want. And if you're looking for utopia, by all means, search for it. But insofar as the basic requirement is there, therefore they say there is Sharia in Singapore. A couple of scholars have looked at this as well. There was a book by Faisal Abdul who argues that even America in the Sharia, he used the word Sharia compliant state, because he looked at all the 5 maqasid of the Sharia that I mentioned, and he said that these are being fulfilled in America, therefore it's a Sharia compliant state. Some people have stretched the argument to look at the laws in the country. They may not necessarily be totally identical to Islamic laws in your fiqh textbooks, but when you look at the law, it protects the right, it is fair, it gives individuals access to justice, and they say these are Islamic laws as well. So they are Islamic in spirit, Islamic in nature, but not Islamic in form. So if you look at this argument, then the question is, what is it that you want? Do you want the substance? Do you want the spirit of it, or do you want the form of it? And that's a very big question that we need to ask ourselves. Some people are obsessed with form. Unless and until I see this, right? So they say, unless and until, Mohamed, I use this example, unless and until I see a so-called on your head and a beard, I don't think you're religious. I suspect your religiosity. Maybe you're not very sure, right? But maybe if you have a beard, you have a kopia like that, maybe not religious, but you don't start. So, like myself today is a little bit and a so-called, okay, maybe they will start. Maybe. Dr. Mohamed, maybe not. Some people are like that. They will walk out of the room. They say, no, what will start? No, will start. Not showing what. right? Then people look at all these things, obsessed with the form. But some people with substance, integrity. Mashaka, I'm going to tell you this something which is not very nice to hear, but a lot of people may outwardly look very religious, right? But unfortunately, they don't have any integrity. And you know, if you know them, you know that, and you will find out. Right? They are out there to exploit people, they are there to do all sorts of dirty things. Right? So again, the question is it form or is it substance? That's one. When we talk about Sharia and context, this is a very important thing. And I want to go back to the earlier question and link it to this one. Yeah? In particular, with regards to the role of women and gender relations. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm set this side of the room so you know where I'm leaning towards. Yeah. Because I have a family, I have a mother who does a lot of good things for the family, and I have a wife who does a lot of good things for the family as well. Let's look at inheritance and fara'id. We have fara'id laws spelled out explicitly in the Quran. And one of the favorite topics of people who talk about gender inequality in Islam is the example of لِلْذَكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. The male benefactor gets two shares, the female gets one share. They say, how is this equal? When you look at, you can never understand this division if you don't understand the Arab society in the 7th century. It's a society in which most of the male go out to work and provide for the family, not the female. There are exceptions. Sayyidatina Khadija radiallahu anha was a businesswoman. We don't know the details, but she was somebody with some capital and she did a lot of trade. But other than that, a lot more, majority, overwhelmingly in the society, the male went out to work, the female stayed at home. So they didn't have access to their own wealth, right? And all their financial needs were taken care of by the male family members. So the argument is that the spirit of fara'id is you get extra only because with that extra right that you get is the responsibility to look after and care of the female family members. That's why they get less, because you need to take care of them, make sure their basic needs are being met. But this requirement for taking care is not mentioned. The Quran only mentions what you get because the context was about, when somebody passes on, what happens to the wealth, what happens to the estate. Right. Now the question is, in today's context, again, this is Sharia in today's context, right? May I, if you don't mind me asking, this side of the hall, how many of you actually go out to work? Can I see show of hands? Not very high, but at least half. Thank you very much. Half. Do you all have to ask permission from the husband? No, just joking. Okay, you all go out to work, right? Because I'm very sure the right side of the house are very supportive. Either are supportive or have no choice. The wife is very clever, or the wife needs to support the family, but I think that's how we do things in Singapore. This kind of society is not the society that you find in many parts of the world. And mind you, not even in the West. Because some of the immigrants in the West have come from villages in some parts of Asia, very conservative, the wives are not allowed to work. Okay? But anyway, this is the society that we have. Now, we then recognize that in today's context, do your family members provide for your immediate family if you actually die? What I mean by this is your siblings, okay? Your male siblings. They get a lot more than your spouses. So if you die, and they get a lot more, because then you don't have a son, for example, right? You don't have a son, they get a lot more than your wife. Will they actually come forward and say, well, Farah gives me more, but I need to provide for yourself, take care of your monthly needs. Maybe you got about $50,000, $60,000 because your brother passed away. I'm going to use about $20,000, $50,000 to make sure your kids are being taken care of. Is that normally the case? Is that the norm in Singapore? That's not the norm. Is it a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. It hasn't become a norm because it's in our culture that we all take care of our own families. Unless there are, of course, extreme situations, somebody falls ill and you need to get support, that kind of thing. But usually, we take care of our own business. So how are you going to implement the para in this kind of context? The things they will run away. And there is no court that will bring them to court and say, hey, hang on, you took 20,000 from your brother's share and now you say that you run away, you didn't even ask after the bandu or the wife of your brother's wife. This cannot be the case. No court is going to do that because it's not in the law. So contextually there is a problem to implementing fara'id in that sense. But like Dr. Mohamed said earlier, some things are qat'i. Qat'i means it's qat'i subut, it's in the Quran, you cannot dispute its existence. And qat'i dilala, it is so clear that it cannot carry another meaning. When you say man gets 2 shares, woman gets 1 share, it means 2 shares and 1 share, right? It doesn't mean anything else. You cannot think, maybe the 2 means like half or quarter, it cannot mean that. So therefore it's qat'i. So unless and until society in total wants to rethink this and say that, okay, we want to preserve the maqasid, we want to preserve the intention and the spirit of the law, and we think that it can be implemented in a different way, which some scholars have done this, but you all have been shot down and criticized, some of them even as heretical and liberal and so on and so forth. We cannot solve that. So in the absence of that, do we just sit down and say, well, nothing can be done, sorry ladies, I'm sorry, you want a lady, that's your risky, we're still more advantage and privilege than you are. No, we don't do that because we have serious problems to solve in our community, in our society. We must make sure that their needs are taken care of. So what we do is the Fatwa Committee looks at various other means and ways in which you can plan for your estate. You can plan for your estate. Things like your CPF monies, things like your property which is owned under joint tenancy. They look at the contract bit, they look at all the technical bits, but they also look at the spirit of the law. They try to marry both, and that is a way out. And what that means is, we don't touch fara'id as it is, but fara'id is the default inheritance system when nobody plans for their estate. Meaning, if you today think that I don't want to plan, whether it's my house or my insurance or my CPF, I don't want to plan, I leave it to chance, then of course everything, so long as the law allows it, everything will be subject to fara'id. But that is a bit irresponsible in my opinion, right? Because you don't want to leave your family members. Anything who does their family members will think about it. Because nobody can guarantee how long it will be. So you need to start planning. So fara'id is there to be the last resort in terms of distributing or even cash monies, right? Cash monies and you leave it in your account or maybe just your name. But it's a responsibility of Muslims to plan for their estate, and there are other tools and instruments which you can use to make sure that the needs and the interests of your loved ones are taken care of. I am sorry to say that today we live in a time when we cannot have a lot of, I think trust is depleting. There's a depletion of trust. And by this I mean, you cannot even trust your relatives to what extent, because we have seen this, and so I'm sorry to share this, sad story that in MUIS especially, in MUIS, families have come, crying and this and that, and complaining to us, asking us for help because of the mistreatment by family members when a family member passes. Right? So you have a case where the mother who lives in the house, because the son, the mother lives with the son, the son is married to the family, the mother lives with the son. And then when the son dies, so of course it becomes under the fara'id, right? You had to, this is before the fatwa, before that, under the fara'id you had to sell off the property because you have to divide the cash proceeds to ahli waris. Okay? So usually it's not the mother, it's actually the siblings that come. Assuming that this guy did not have a son, so the siblings come and say, we went to the Sharia court, we asked for inheritance, sir, it says that my name so and so has 1/8 of the estate. 1/8 is equals to $25,000. So where's my $25,000? I want my share. Now, this poor lady does not have any cash. Maybe she's never worked. All she has is a house. And in order for her to fulfill this 25,000, she has had to sell the house and then give the money to this brother. But if she sells the house, where's she going to live? She loses even the shelter. So is that really the objective of Fara'id? That because it says so and so will get 1/8, give the person 1/8 regardless of what happens to the family. Is that the purpose? It cannot be God's purpose. It cannot be God's objectives. It cannot be His maqasid. Right? It's blatant injustice. And that's because of the way we understand and we implement it. And that's where we have gone wrong. So, in terms of women's rights, it's a big topic. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss. But context is important because you see society has changed. And it's the scholars who really have to look at these issues. And a lot of, let me assure you, some of us may be doubtful about what we do. Let me assure you that a lot of the change in fatwa is driven by real cases of instances of, it's to some extent it's abuse, to many extent it's injustice, unfairness, and suffering by people in society. It's only because we want to save people from this kind of suffering that certain positions have changed.
Ustaz, we are moving to another question. Interesting thing, one of the things that Ustaz Nazir mentioned, that people who do Songkok and no mustache are less religious. I feel that I'm the least religious here. Anyway, and the next question actually talk about understanding the traits of radical thinking. So from being religious and now we're talking about radical thinking. The question is there any way we can identify radical thinking? And probably another question is on the place of Salafism in the modern context. Mohamed.
Thank you, sir. But before I proceed to respond to these two questions, I just like to add one point from what Dr. Nazirudin mentioned about this Islamic values, Sharia, right? From my own experience, you see that sometimes you can see these Islamic values are more apparent in the Western world rather in the Islamic countries, right? And this is true. One is, if you look at what, for example, Muhammad Abdul has mentioned, he mentioned something very interesting. He mentioned that I went to the East, or I went to the Middle East, I saw many Muslims, but I don't see Islam. And I went to the West, I do not see many Muslims, but I saw Islam. And this is something that I personally experienced, because I think Dr. Nazir also, we had the same experience of living in both the Middle East and in the West, right? I mean, I spent 4 years living in Egypt and 4 years living in the UK. And from my personal experience, I had problems dealing with the Arabs, the Egyptians and the Saudis. I'm not saying that all Arabs are bad, no. But Ustaz Hamza, you know what I mean, right? Nak naik taxi pun nak kena gaduh in Egypt, yeah. And many other issues with the Arabs. But I don't experience such situation when I live in the UK. I miss the UK very much. And Dr. Nazirudin has also the same feelings. Yeah, the people are very nice. I remember when in 1998, both of us traveled to Liverpool, and how the Brits welcome us, right? And they provide us with this chicken, and we have to eat. They are very nice. Unlike them. So you can see, and I'm talking about the people and the system as well. You can see the system in Egypt, for example, and this in there. So you can see what Islam is also about values. You can see, when you talk about Islam, it's not about fake, it's not about rulings. It's about, and it's not about belief also. It's about values, it's about human relations, about compassion. Okay, let me now respond to the question on radicalism. How can we know the traits of radicalism? In Singapore, from my own experience and our experience in Singapore is when we were confronted with the threat of JI back in 2002, right? It was easier for us to know the individuals Because all of them, they are connected or they belong to a particular organizational group, which is Jamaah Islamiyah. But over the years, the threat of extremism, radicalism, and radicalization has evolved from the phenomenon of those individuals affiliated to an organization to self-radicalized individuals. We had the first case of self-radicalized case in Singapore back in 2007, where an individual is not affiliated to any organization, but he was radicalized via the internet. Right? So this is the challenge today, since 2007 until today. Because many of those individuals being radicalized in Singapore, they did not belong to Al-Qaeda, JI, ISIS, Boko Haram, and the likes. They believe in the ideology, believe in what they believe. So it is difficult for us to actually establish, to know what are actually the traits. But we can find several common traits. I'll give you a simple example. You know ISIS, let's talk about ISIS. Do you think, I want to ask you a question. Do you think there are ISIS members in Singapore? How many of you believe or think that there are ISIS members in Singapore? No, there's no ISIS members. Good. Alhamdulillah. Now I want to ask you the next question. Do you think there are ISIS sympathizers in Singapore? Yes. Yeah. Okay. How can you identify an ISIS sympathizer? How can you know an ISIS sympathizer? I give you a simple example. You know, when there is an attack, or we hear an attack, let's say we on the radio or the television and news pop up, ISIS launched a suicide operation, killing 60 individuals, right? Suicide operation. And someone who watched that news said, yes, this is the way. This should be the way. Allahu Akbar. He said that. So you can know that he might not belong to ISIS, but he sympathized with ISIS. How can he support the work of destruction, killings, especially indiscriminate killings, violence? This is the least that you can know an ISIS sympathizer, right? So I just give an example. So these are some of the things, traits that you do. Of course, there are other traits. We need, especially parents, adults, we need to monitor the activities or the online activities of our children, especially when they try to look for Islamic materials online. It has been always emphasized by MUIS for the importance of learning Islam from credible sources, reliable sources, and accredited asatiza. Right. What you find or you found on the internet, although it is Islamic, or you see an Islamic, it is not Islamic teaching, it's information. Islamic learning has to come from an ustaz or ustazah. There is the tradition of mushafaha when you want to learn Islam. The next question is about what? Salafism. What is the question? I'm not saying that Salafism has no place, but before I answer, do you know what is Salafism? Or when you say Salafism, Salafis, do you actually know what is Salafism? When I talk about Salafism here, I'm talking about the ideas of modern Salafism. And I have defined Salafism in my book and in my research. here I say, I refer the term modern Salafism to a religious inclination or tendency towards a set of ideas and identity, and these ideas and identity are subscribed to by modern Salafis who advocate strict adherence to their understanding of Islamic practices as enjoined by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there is of course elaboration on this definition, right? But you know that it needs to be emphasized here that the use of the term Salafism today is problematic, and in many times ambiguous, and also in many ways confusing. And this ambiguity can be realized when many Salafis or many Salafis themselves are not entirely clear as to what Salafism entails, assuming that it is simply to follow the Quran and Sunnah. And this is a problematic definition since it implies that others do not. So you need to understand what do we mean, what do I mean, and the scholars mean by when we talk about Salafism. We do not deny the fact that we must follow the teachings of the Salaf, because that is what Rasulullah has commanded us. You must follow me and follow the Salaf. The hadith said that خَيْرُ الْقُرُونِ قَرْنِ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. So the subsequent generation after the demise of the Prophet, they are the Salafis, right? But when we talk about today's Salafis, who are they? What do we mean when we say this is a Salafi, this is a non-Salafi? Definition has to be established first, right? Yeah. And this strict adherence to their understanding of Islam might not be suitable in some contexts. Right? For example, in Singapore, especially in the context of what we have been mentioning earlier, in the context of a secular environment and in the context of Muslims living as minority community. So I think you need to learn and read more about Salafism. Then you will know. One, there's a lot of, I can give you several articles and books. There is a very good book about Salafism, modern Salafism, global Salafism, the name of the book. The other book is Making Salafism, and a couple of articles, The Anatomy of Salafi Movement by Quinton Victorowitz, which I personally met him. And of course you can find some parts in my book as well. And you will know, we are talking about modern Salafis. We are not talking about the Ashab al-Nabi, the companions. We are talking about these ideas. And all these modern Salafis, many of them, they advocate the idea of Islamism, which again I need to explain, but I don't have the time. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, time is not what we have now because Zohar is coming soon. I would like to have more questions, but that's all that we have for today. But before that, just to wrap up, probably I get 2 minutes from each of the speakers to with the final question coming from me. So back to our topic today, Muslim contemporary world. What it is, how it is to be a Muslim contemporary world in 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to speak over the 2 minutes, but I apologize that some of the questions have not been answered, and some of the points that have been raised could not be adequately addressed. I hope there will be other opportunities, and thank you for coming. I just wanted to say that I think there is a real expectation. I mean, we are under the spotlight because of things that happen beyond our control. But I wanted to say that a lot of us, especially in Singapore, we are doing the right things. Okay, I think we are doing a lot of good things, we are doing the right things. All of you in your own capacities, you are, as a family member, as a member of your community and society, I think you are doing a lot of good things. I know a lot of people here, I've seen you in various events. So we are starting from a very good positive point, although we have a challenge ahead of us. at the moment our challenge is really about perceptions. Okay, it's the way people perceive us because of things that, not that we have done, but things that other people have done. It's natural for those perceptions to emerge. It's natural for doubts to emerge. When all you hear about is that another Muslim does another thing and you do other things, of course you begin, as an individual, as a human being, you begin to ask yourself, are they all right? Are they okay? Can we trust them? These questions will rise. But I think we should be encouraged by what we have done so far, and I think all I wanted to say is for us to continue doing the good things, and in fact do more of these good things. Be very confident that at the end of the day, if it's a good thing, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always bless it. Right? There are many of these ideas coming out from elsewhere that are trying to plant doubts in ourselves whether we are doing the right thing, whether this is right, this is wrong. Like I said, unless and until you have gone through that process of learning and knowledge to discover for yourself whether this is right or wrong, then you should not immediately get thrown into the idea of believing that, all these years I've been doing the wrong thing. All these years I've been failing. All these years my, asatiza, the older ones have taught me the wrong thing. That cannot be the case. That simply cannot be the case. It's an opinion, a view that somebody may come with and bring with, but what makes that view and opinion authoritative and the other one that you've been learning suddenly totally wrong? Right? So that cannot be the case. By and large, we are doing the right thing, so I would want to encourage all of us to continue doing that. Let us turn this situation, this current environment we find ourselves in as an opportunity. As an opportunity, I think every one of us work a bit harder to show what Islam represents. At the end of the day, I want to say this is very important. I want to say this. Regardless of what you hear and what you read about, and this applies to us, even all of us. Nothing is more powerful than the social experience. Okay? Let me give you an example. Some people may say that a certain group or certain ethnicity or whatever is of a certain type, in a negative sense. They are not good because of this. But if you yourself have a friend, right, or a colleague who is of that group, but your experience is totally different, I don't think you will be easily bought into the idea. You say, no, don't bullshit me, because I got my own friend, he or she is not like that. Right? Maybe the other people are like that. That is the power of social experience. So I think the more that we are rooted in those kind of social experiences, if we are able to show our integrity and values as Muslims, our respect for the rights of others, and in fact, our hospitality as well, right? Our hospitality. I slightly disagree with Dr. Mohamed when he said, all the errors about a taxi. Yeah, taxi drivers everywhere are not very nice. Yeah, and also, yes, we do have a lot of quarrels with Egyptians. But one thing that I fully respect them for is their hospitality, right? I think we did receive that amazing hospitality when we were in the UK when we visited somebody, but the Arabs also have some very, very good values as well. Those kind of experiences will change people's perceptions. So if we do more of that, we are doing a major service to our religion. The opposite of that is extremely detrimental. If we retreat and we withdraw, and we begin to show a silent side of Islam, which somebody else will take over, that will reinforce those negative perceptions. And then we are fighting a losing battle. Thank you very much.
Very briefly for me, because time and very soon. I mean, we need to be contemporary in order to live in the contemporary world. We have to. If not, we don't live in the contemporary world. Second, I think in the modern era of technology, everybody wants to share a lot of things. Everybody wants to teach someone something. Everybody wants to be an Australian. But now not in Singapore any longer. When ARS become mandatory by 1st of January. But the most important thing here is that has not been really internalized by many Muslims is the issue or the notion of adab, or respect. Respect in disseminating knowledge, in learning knowledge, in teaching knowledge. Where is the adab? And this has been emphasized strongly by our ulama in the past, like Imam al-Ghazali, for example. Adab of knowledge. Today you can find knowledge on the internet, in the WhatsApp. But where is the adab? So we need to really internalize, revive, and practice this. Thank you very much.
Just a short one from Dr. Nazir.
30 seconds. Thank you for indulgence. Very important, I wanted to say that not everything about the contemporary world or contemporary condition is good, and we should not accept it unconditionally. We're not saying that, that's a question of context. What we need to do as Muslims is we must put ourselves in a position where we can critically engage with the contemporary world. We can tell people that we disagree, we can tell people these things may not be right, we can tell people the future should not be like this, but we must lift ourselves in that position. That is our challenge.
Thank you, Dr. Nazir and Dr. Mohamed. I'll just do very short summarize all the key points from our discussion today. First is context is not secret, and that we need to consider whether do we want substance or form at the time we need to choose. And knowledge has to do with the authority, and authority has to do with knowledge. Before I end, I just want to quote this as a concluding sentence from Sheikh Hossein Nasser. He said that the heart of Islam is the Islam of the heart. May Allah bless us all and in getting a faithful Muslim and living in this contemporary world. I pass back to our MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have now come to the end of our program. Before you go, we would like to seek your cooperation to fill up the feedback form. The link has been sent to you via your mobile phones. You don't have to do it now, you can do it later, but just spare some of your time to fill up the form so that we can improve for our upcoming program. Speaking of our next program, we will be having our next ADIL Knowledge Retreat with the theme of Radicalization and Extremism Challenge next month, 8th of October 2016, same time and same place as well. Okay, so we hope you can continue to join us for this session, and registration is done through www.adil.sg, and again admission is free. So we thank you for your attendance today, and we hope that this session has been beneficial to you. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.